Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. I gotta say, I'd go with Bill and Pete on this one. First, I go with Bill. He was a celebrity, a movie star in the early 20th century. And I'm talking about W.C. Fields. He was known as a pretty heavy drinker. One time he said, "During Prohibition, once I was forced to live for days on nothing but food and water." Okay, I'm not going to quit my job and become a celebrity impersonator, okay? But let's just say that W.C. Fields had a checkered personal life, as do so many celebrities. Near the time of his death, a friend came to see him, and this friend was surprised to see W.C. Fields reading a Bible. Fields said, "Just looking for loopholes." I'm with Bill on that one. Pete, too. Peter the Apostle was looking for loopholes. He came to Jesus and he said, "Lord, if my neighbor keeps on sinning against me, how many times do I have to forgive? 7 times?" Looking for a loophole. Forgiveness is really, really hard. So how long do I have to keep it up before I can quit? Jesus does not give Peter the loophole he's looking for. No limit, Jesus says, 70 times 7. Now, in Bible speak, 7 is the magical number of completeness. So 70 times 7 means forever and always. And if you think it's not really, really hard to forgive forever and always, well, then you have not really tried it. I'm with Bill and Pete. I want loopholes. Forgiveness is really, really hard. Jesus refuses to put a limit on it. We may not like that, but that's what he said, that's what he taught, and that's what he did. You might remember that on the cross itself, as he was being tortured to death, he forgave his executioners, according to old St. Luke. Now here in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus tells Peter a ridiculous joke about a king who forgives a servant who owes him an absurd, unimaginable amount of money. And in the film version, I think this servant should be played by W.C. Fields, don't you? When a debt like that gets forgiven, you should be so happy you'd love the whole world, right? But no, this guy goes out and attacks another servant who owes him just a couple of bucks. Jesus wants us to see how ridiculous that is. You have been forgiven, Jesus says. Now you go out and forgive. Okay, here's a pop quiz for everybody. Finish this sentence. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. It comes up over and over again in the teaching of Jesus. Forgive as you have been forgiven. But Jesus, it's really, really hard. Not impossible, however, Jesus replies. Now, you may know this famous story from history, from World War II. In 1940, the German Air Force was bombing England extensively. Great destruction, much death. And Coventry Cathedral was hit and smashed. After the attack, workmen were picking through the rubble, and they found nails, lots and lots of nails, many of them dating from back in the Middle Ages when that cathedral had been built. Well, the nails were gathered up, and the nails were crafted into little crosses One was placed on an altar in the middle of the ruined cathedral, and behind that altar was a larger cross charred by the flames of the explosions. And on the wall behind that were inscribed these words, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And those, of course, are the words old St. Luke said that Jesus spoke from the cross. The little nail crosses were sent to churches in the other nations involved in the war. One ended up in a Berlin church that had been bombed by the English and the Americans. Another was donated to the Chapel of Reconciliation, which formed part of the Berlin Wall Memorial. All these crosses made of nails symbolize the really, really hard work of forgiveness. It is so much easier to hate than to love. It is so much easier to carry a grudge than to lay it down. I know that. I know forgiveness is really, really hard. But I have to remind us all. I have to remind myself of this. I have to remind you of this. Forgiveness equals freedom. Until I can forgive, which in Bible talk means let go, until I can forgive, I'm still in jail. Until I can forgive, I am in prison to whatever or whoever offended me. Forgive and you will be free. Forgive and you will be forgiven. I know it's hard. Don't argue with me. It's what Jesus is all about. Bill and Pete were looking for loopholes. Jesus does not give any. Now, those first friends of Jesus eventually evolved into the church. And the church, down through the centuries, has been a little weak on this forgiveness thing. We have not found it a winning proposition, by and large. But we need to do it. Forgiveness is hard. Hard as nails. But it's possible. And the good news is this. Forgiveness equals freedom. Amen.